Bruchim Aboyim B'Shem Hashem. Usually the Seder is that we Farbrengen on the night after Yud Shvat, or Yud Aleph Shvat. As we all know that Yud Shvat, Tafshin Yud, 68 years ago, the Gematria Chaim, as the Rebbe pointed out, in Beis Nissen, Tafshin Memches, 68 years from Tov Reish Pei, the day of the Stalkus of the Rebbe Rashab. So Tafshin Memches was 68 years, and the Rebbe said then that famous Sikha of Yechi HaMelech, and said that 68 is the Gematria Chaim, etc. And as the Rebbe always pointed out about the day of Beis Nissen, that it's the Stalkus of the Rebbe Rashab, and then the Yom HaScholas HaNesiyas of B'nai Yehuda, his only son, Ramala Mekoimai, his successor, the Friedrich Rebbe, as the Rebbe called him, the Rebbe B'Shven Sidor Reinu. So of course we relate to Yud Shvat in the same way, but the Rebbe also made particular emphasis on Yud Aleph Shvat, on the day following, the actual official Kabbalas HaNesiyas. And as the Rebbe writes it in a letter, actually in an English letter, in answer to your question, when I assumed this position, and something like that, it was on the first yahrzeit of the passing of my saintly father-in-law. That's how the Rebbe writes it. And that was on Oir Liyud Aleph Shvat. The Rebbe said then the first Maimer. And the Rebbe speaks about the significance of the day of Yud Aleph Shvat, particularly in the Sikha, which is called Kuntras B'cha Yivarech Yisrael and Tafshin Nun Beis, the Sikhas in connection with Chov Bei Shvat, the yahrzeit of Rebbe Chaim Mushka, and the Rebbe then speaking about Yud Shvat in Tafshin Yud, etc., not elaborating, and then Yud Aleph Shvat being the first full day, and the Hemshech, and the Yom Shenitlu Boi HaMo'eres of Doir HaShvi, very clear words about the Rebbe's own Nesiyas, and particularly in the year of Tafshin Yud Aleph. And there is also a ha'ara, a very interesting ha'ara, and a very inspiring one, where the Rebbe connects the day of Yud Aleph Nissen, his birthday of course, with the day of Yud Aleph Shvat. And the Rebbe connects it in the following way by saying that the months of the year corresponded to the Shvatim. And the month of Shvat corresponds to Shevet Osher. Yud Aleph Nissen, we know, in the order of Nisim, which we say in the days of Nissen, Uviyoim Ashtei Osar Yoim Nasi Livnei Osher. On the 11th of Nisan, the Nasi is the Nasi of Osher. Many Maimorim explaining this. But in that ha'ara, the Rebbe points out that Yud Aleph Nissen is the day of the Leder. The Rebbe is talking very clear words. Yud Aleph Nissen is the day of the Leder, the day of the birth, which is connected with Nasi Livnei Osher, which connects with Yud Aleph of the month of Shvat, which is also Shevet Osher, and that is the day of Nesiyas Begilui. When the Nesiyas, the Rebbe's leadership is Begilui. So as I was saying before, usually if I bring on the night between Yud and Yud Aleph Shvat, it's because it's on Friday this year, so if I bring it tonight, it doesn't in any way preclude that tomorrow night there shouldn't be Farbrengen, there should be Farbrengen tomorrow night too. But the Mitzvah as it is, and as it rarely falls out that your Shvat should be on Friday, so if I bring it tonight. So the Seder is going to be, we're going to start with a video, basically B'dvar Malchus, and after the video, Rabbi Yehuda Hoch will Farbrengen, We did announce that 9:30 will be a break for Ma'ariv. Okay.
Der erste Shvat, ich war am Mittwoch. Der habe ich dann übernommen in der Früh. Noch ein Davne ist er reingegangen zu sich in Zimmer. Und mit reingetragen und Reben den Xaviskasus. Wenn ich angesagt habe, ich Mensch oder so, sage ich, über die Tür. Ich bin nicht zugegangen, versteht ihr? Und mit geben die Tiere, ich habe einen Kopf zu werden, geben die Tiere. Und dann habe ich gesagt, eigentlich tue ich nicht aus. Ja, ich habe für uns nicht das, aber ich bin ein Sachzimmer gewesen. Und getroffen, der Rabbi ist gesessen mit dem Mischneiders, gelernt Mischneiders. Ich denke, wärst du sie wegen zu Kalanowski, hat er weg zum Reben, dem Xaviskasus, hat er übernehmen. Der Rabbi hat gewähnt, er hat aufeinander gewähnt. Gewähnt, geklippert, nicht gewähnt. Weißt du, was geklippert ist? Stark. Einmal bei Farbrengen, ich mir sehen, der Rabbi wird das so stark, nicht nach einem Weg. Das ging mal vor Minuten, bis jetzt aber ruhig. Und er hat angenommen das so, das kann ich sehen. Als er sich angenommen gesagt, ich bin nicht gewusst, als warum sind wir übernommen nach Reben, Baruch Hashem. Und wir sind nach Hause gegangen. Nachher ist er rausgekommen in Chadakov. Und dann gesagt mir, wo wir waren dort, als 8 Jahr, danach wird einer Farbrengen von Covid und Shvat. Oh, wir haben gewusst, dass sie sind etwas da, das ist ein Neues. Danach sind wir gekommen zu Farbrengen. Der Rabbi ist da reingekommen. Ich habe den Psidem ständig, komm, stehst und habe was getan. Und der Rabbi sagt, ja, weggesetzt, die sind nebeneinander. Sind der Rabbi und so gesagt, nur Chaim, und er wird geentfert. Und mit gesungen Nigunim, das war gesungen Nigunim. Mit Amo, Zacha weggestellt, von der Unterschieden, stellt er sich auf, stellt sich auf und sagt, Rabbi, wir wollen so sagen, am einmal Chsides. Er sieht das so getan, die waren still, dort ein paar Minuten, wenn still, der Rebbe genommen den Mai genannt und hat so getan die erste Werte gedeckt, er gesagt, geschrieben, der Rebbe der Schwer in dem Maimer, was er da rausgegeben zu der Jahrzeit von Shvat, wo sie wohl gar nach Hause haben, und er hat gesagt, das Stück sein von Rayat, nachher hat er gesagt, sein Bier von Henske das auch.
Bossi legani achese kalo, sagt er auf die Rufe mit der Schraba Chanot, als legani in Ksivka. Nowadays steht legani, lignuni. Das heißt lemokim, shohoyer yikre bat schilo. Worin ikre schino, ist er betachtein im Haus. Ist er da mit Eik, der Rebbe der Schwert, und sagt, ikre schino betachtein im Haus, oder ikre supnimis, was ist da in dem Linie von Schino, ist dafke, oder der Linie, wo ist er gewähnt, dafke betachtein. Der bringt weiter auf vom Medrisch, als ikre schino betachtein im Haus, bis wann ist sie gewähnt der Chete Zadat, ist hat er demot in Jotne Misale gewähnt die Schchine von Oretz Lorakia. Wo das ist er gewähnt der Iker Hasilu, Punkt als Ewe bepasst ist, der Chete Zadat gewähnt der Siebe. Und der Nissina Smokim, also danach kann es sein der Chetzkais Behevel und Chetamabel mit die alle. Was am Misale gewähnt der noch Lorakia, alles Lebeis und Azei Hecher, is dat azay zegt in dem Pnimisoinien is was sie gewend der Rikerin Asilo ki das das aus was das Hobit am Betachtein was mit Misale gewend die Schina von Elam Hase von dem Elam Hase Atach. Dennoch sagt bis wann ist eine gekommen sein Tzadikim und haben zurück Mamschir gewend die Schchina von Rekia hat ein Lewoven als weiter und der Rebbe-Marder von Bekitzer. Bis wann ist sie gekommen Meshe Rabbeinu, was Kol Hashvin Chvivin und hat Mamschir gewähnt die Schchina von Rekia alle Floretz. Stellt auch drauf der Rebbe in Chatzoi Igo, was Kol Hashvin Chvivin. Der Fund, was der Loschen ist, nicht Kol Hashvin Shvi, nur Kol Hashvin Chvivin, ist auch Maschma, was ist der Meile, was ist auch das, was ist ein Shvi. Was Lichiere ist auch das Ayinien, was das nicht wie Pschirose. Bescheid, mir sagt auf der Sache, dass er Sache Choviv, Kol soll das ein Ayinien, was gewinnt soll, bis 10 über Avidose, über Pschirose. Bescheid, aber mir sagt, was ist das Achwives? Dafür, was ist ein Schwi, und das, was ist ein Schwi, kommt auch das Betude. Das, was mir sagt, der Meile auf Schwi ist in der Ruf Gufe, ist nicht der Meile von Rischen. Warum mir sagt, was ist der Chovi, dafür, was ist ein Schwi, lo Rischen. Und mit was sie gewinnt, hat die Schwives, was lo Rischen geht, auf Avrom Avinu, bringt dort der Rebbe auf die Maimer, was Avrom Avinu gewinnt, wie das ist beim Messias Nefesh. Stellt aber der Rebbe rein, dass er nicht gewinnt, wie der Messias Nefesh von Rabbi Kive, vor dem Messias Nefesh von Rabbi Kive gewinnt, was gesucht im Minium von Messias Nefesh. Mosi Jovel Yodi Vai Kaimenu. Maschinkin Avrom Avinu Messias Nefesh, ist das gewinnt bei Mayinim bei der Chaga. Hat gewusst, dass David darf sein, Vayikra schon Beshem Hawaii Eleilom. Als Ikra Vayikra, Ele Vayakri, als andere sollen ihm schreien. Bemele ist gegangen in Lavidose. Hat gemacht bei der Chade Vayini von Messias Nefesh, hat sich nicht gefällt. Is hat der Linie von Messias Nefesh, dass sehr viel der Iker, Kol Hoaveda, als viele beschaff mir wegen Meshe Rabbeinu, was ist auch Schittinos Natir al Yodei, Favos, der Favos Kol Hashvin Chvivin, sagt man auf dem bin King Delu Maltameid, und man sagt, was ist der Meile von Kol Hashvin, oder das, was Hashvin Lorishin. Das heißt, als bei viele Bibchirose nicht, und bei Vidose nicht. Nur wenn der mir bekommt fast geheit, soll man nicht meinen, als er damit ist wie ein Muglo. Man kann seiner sehen in Joni, was nicht leist hier, sagt man auf der Ruf und sieht, es bringt das auf in der Sachetter, als jeder, da viele Schiffko, kann sagen, Mossi, ja, die Meister, Avese, Abraham, Yitzchak, Janki. Drauf mannten bei uns mehr nicht, unter die Akkorde, wir sollen alle wissen, wir sind gefunden sich in dem See Hashvi. Was wird das angerufen mit der Hashvi, das alles mal los ist, und das was schwierig ist. Was gewähnt der Anlage von dem Rischen, als viele hin von Messias Nefesh hat gesucht. Hat noch gewusst, was sein in Artikel war Yikro, war Yakri, also kommen in der Nord. Was man weiß nicht von Göttlichkeit, was man weiß nicht von Niedigkeit. Man weiß viele nicht, wenn man alles weiß. Sagt dort soll sich ablegen im Ganzen an der Seite. Und Hoch viele kommt zu gehen und weiß dem imperialische Bixar. Aber dort steht Befehl, weil Yikro, als sie genug als soll rufen, sagt nein, alt Yikro, weil Yikro, du willst, hat dir so lange in der Yikro. Ist bei Yakri, das zu sehen, also die, was haben bis ist von gar nicht gewusst, sollen sehen gegen die Kassen und schreien, als Hawaii kill Elo, man nicht Elo, ist eine besondere Sache. Also ich habe der Rambana, nicht Elo, ist eine besondere Sache. Und der Kuss ist eine besondere Sache. Nur dann, dass sie mich schon geschehen und das Elo, nur dann, das und Elo mit dieselbe Sache. Und hat die Hanhogi, was der Rischen hat uns bewiesen, und was uns bewiesen, der Rebbe, ist, dass das man so von dem jeden, was gefühlt sich in dem Deschwi, als Hoch, fühlte sich nicht keine Kirche ist, und fühlte sich nicht keine Unionen, und schreit mir an die Umani und hat Reis auf der Ruf. Sagt mir, wie bald, da du mich lebe, Pchirosach, bist du der Deschwi, von dem und dem, die Schaß, was schon ist, die trocken gewählt. Ich darf jeder von uns nehmen, auf sich hat der Minion Havede, und was ihm gegeben Kirchis auf der Ruf, warum sich in der Aschwi, als darf in sich wissen, dass wie ist, wie viel Mord für ihm ist gegossen. Und unter dem wird können nehmen, einteilen, aufstellen, sein Heilig in unter der Minion vom Amschiff sein, dem Schien oder Mato, dem Hase Hagashmi, war Chumri.
Nachher noch haben wir gesagt, nachher gewinnt sie sicher, da habe ich bin sicher davor, und ihr gedenkt die Werte gedenkt. Er hat gesagt, es ist nicht gesagt, die dem das so, er hat gesagt, ich sehe den Wegtag, ich kenne Feger war im Busen, also Aussprache gewinnt das so. Ihr darf so nicht, ihr sogar zu ihr war ich heraushelfen, mit was noch ich kenne zusammen. Aber ihr sollt sagen, noch nicht, was bei mir im Ganzen. Ihr sollt tun und ihr sollt heraushelfen. Das hat er gesagt.
Also pflegen wollen nach Sieden sollen allein tun, nicht verlassen sich auf den Reben. Allachas kamen wir 20 Männer zu werden, aber es an dem, dass nicht legt sich in Fegelig im Busi, wo der Meter legt auf mir Arribe, seien die alle frei und kann sich tun, was ihr will. Ich meine nicht, was ihr wollt, was wir schon im was ihnen muss tun. Da werden sich machen ein Gutai mit einem ruhigen Leben und die sich riesig lieben, was sie seine herzlich in Horven, hat sich auf den allen Jahren und jeder Tag wegen Tages Gafne, wie Tages Tinossi und sich tun, was ihr will, dass sie sich blinken Fegelig im Busi und keiner nimmt von nach und darauf die alle Schlitzen, was der Rebetag gegeben. Wir können Tag nicht versprochen, keine Arbeit. Wir können arbeiten mittags zusammen, da wir kommen noch mit etwas helfen, was die Kinder nicht helfen, nicht nachhelfen. aber die Schlittes, was der Rebbe gegeben, jeder von uns, darf in Peelmamisch, allein mit keinem sein, mit seiner Amachevrim, mit seiner Shassagidim von Guf, und mit seiner Amachevrim, Shassagidim von der Neshome. Und es ist auch nicht so, auf Emme zu verlassen, warum das Ayini, was Akobi de Shamayim, Chutz Meir Shamayim, darf ein Poshet allein Horwin und allein Ton. Und dort nicht helfen, was die mit Gern Ksovim und mit Reden und mit Singen und mit Sagen Lechaim, das kann keine Union mit Mishane sein. Das darf Tier allein Aper sein, dem Stuss de Leyumase und dem Koch von Nevesh Abamis und machen der Fuß Stuss de Dusche. Warum der Mischung, der habe einmal gesagt in der Farbrengen, der Mischung hat gekonnt, wo ihm mit dem Geld von Yechidim. Und nach all Piken hat gewollt, also in der Mischung sollen alle Jiden sich mit Stativ sein. Und hat ist in der Mischung Hagashmi, was gewinnt bis man Hamidbar, und hat gewinnt in der Mikdash, was David Amelach hat gebuht, hat befehlisch gewinnt mit Kol Shevet und Shevet. Kurz hat gehandelt, wird Nazam in Schum, was bei David hat das nicht betroffen. Und als sehr gewinnt beim Breben beschaß, gewollt schreiben, dass sie verteilen von Kabbalas Pnei Mashiach, hat gesagt, dass will nicht haben die Minion für sich allein, will David mit haben eine Status von Kol Yisrael. Und hat sehr mit der Arbeit, was man, wie man früher gerät, wie steht beim Reben mit Maimer. Als ist der Arbeit, was man darf machen, die lesbare Betrachtenen, was da im Peel Mamisch darf man mehr nicht wie mit Sanim sein.
Chaim. I recently saw in a alumni Toronto Yeshiva alumni letter was brought a Yechidus that Rabbi Michal Slavin was kind enough to share to the public. Rabbi Michal Slavin, amongst other things, is a Balkira, much loved Balkira in 770. And he shared that when he was a 17-year-old boy, he walked into Yechidus for his birthday, and he was all hyped up about it. He understood that it's the connection of the Yechida, his Yechida, the essence of his neshama with Yechida HaKlolis, with the main neshama. He must be really built up to this Yechidus. And he walked in, and he gave the Rebbe his letter, whatever his questions were, and the Rebbe gave him a bracha, and he walked out, and the whole thing took less than a minute. And he was disheartened by that experience. Anticlimatical. He didn't really know where to put himself. And he was walking through the hallways of 770, and he saw an older bacher who saw that he looked down, so what's the matter? So he said how he felt. So this older bacher said to him, if you walk into Yechidus like a davar acher, then what do you expect? You walk out also like a davar acher. For those who don't understand, davar acher is the term for the well-known non-kosher animal. So at first he was quite offended, hurt, but after a little while he thought about it and he took it to heart, and he decided that next year he's going to walk in a little bit different, like a mensch, and he's going to work on it. So he's put himself to work straight away, put more time to his davening, to his learning. He was building up to the Yechidus of when he's going to turn 18. And then came his 18th birthday, and he went into Yechidus, his letter, and it was a totally different experience. He doesn't share everything that happened there, but one thing, he mentioned a few things that the Rebbe told him. One thing the Rebbe told him was, he wrote he needs a eitzah, he needs advice of what to do with yeshus. There's arrogance, how to avoid arrogance. So the Rebbe told him about that. You solved some difficult Rambam or something, that you have a problem, that you're arrogant. Where does this arrogance come from? Which reminds me of a story. There was once they say about the Kotzker that someone came to him with a problem that he has arrogance, he doesn't know what to do. So the Kotzker said, here, come inside, sit with me in my Yechidus room. And so he sat in the Yechidus room, and someone comes in, and he says, Rebbe, you have to help me, I don't know what to do. I have major problems with Parnasa, and I need help. So the Kotzker looks to this Chavman and says, no, help him out with a couple of dollars. The guy turns away and says, Rebbe, please, I don't have a penny to my name. Okay, fine. The chassid, whatever the Kotzker told him, and the chassid went out. And a little while later, another yid comes in for Yechidus and says, Rebbe, I have this puzzling question in the Gemara, and I asked all the Gedolim, and no one can help me. And please, can you solve it for me? So the Kotzker says, here, he asked this Chavman over here, maybe you can explain to him this Gemara. And the guy again starts shaking. He says, Rebbe, I don't know how to learn. I never learned this Gemara. What do you want from me? Okay, fine. So the Kotzker explained to this yid, helped out with this problem. A little while later, another yid comes and he says, Rebbe, I have this problem in my business and I don't know what to do, and I've questioned exactly how to go about things. I need your advice. So the Kotzker looked at this yid and said, no, help him out. And again, this man was speechless. I don't know anything about business. So the Kotzker said to him, I don't understand. Money you don't have. Torah you don't know how to learn. And business you're also not learned. So what are you so arrogant about? So the Rebbe told this Slavin, if you didn't, when you solve a difficult Rambam, then you come back to the problem of arrogance. Someone else personally told me that he had he also asked the Rebbe about what to do with Yeshus, and the Rebbe told him he should be misplaced on Rin Hashem Nitzav a lot. The Ibisha always in front of me, that was the representative of this yid. Anyway, so that's one thing the Rebbe told him. The next thing the Rebbe told him, he said he had a problem with Hasmada. he asked the Rebbe how he can strengthen his asmada in learning Torah. And the Rebbe answered to him that you have a problem with learning Bahasmada. Here we have one Bacha, the Rebbe mentioned a Bacha's name, who comes from this city in Russia, and he had Mesiras Nefesh to learn Torah. And there's another Bacha, and the Rebbe mentioned his name, and he said he had Mesiras Nefesh to have a beard. And you have a hard time sitting comfortably in Canada and having to have Asmada. So that was the answer to that question. And then the Rebbe told him, seemingly not connected to the questions that he asked, the Rebbe told him that he should carry a picture of the Frierdiker Rebbe with him all the time, and whenever the Yetzer Hara and Nefesh HaBahamis gets the better of him, there seems to be strengthening, he should look at the picture and he should remember that the Rebbe is looking at him right now, and that will help calm his Nefesh HaBahamis. And the last thing the Rebbe told him, or the last thing that he shared, is the Rebbe told him that there's a younger Bacher he was working with and trying to help out. And the Rebbe gave him some advice on how to deal with this younger Bacher, and the Rebbe actually told him some advice on what he should tell the Anhala of how to deal with this younger Bacher. It was a totally different experience, the Yichudis. And obviously, the way you go in is going to have an effect on the way you come out and how the experience is. If you go in like a davar acher, so then you can't expect to come out with much more. What does it mean to go in like a davar acher? So possibly, there's a story that the Rebbe once shared in the name of the Frierdiker Rebbe, that there were once two brothers. And these two brothers, one was a chassid, and one was a not yet chassid. And the brother who was a chassid, as fate would have it, the chassid was poor. He was penniless, and the chassid who was not yet a chassid, the brother who was not yet a chassid, he was a big veer, and they lived in different towns. And the chassid had daughters only. And in those days, it was expensive to marry off a daughter. A son, you were the recipient, it didn't cost you anything. But daughters was expensive to marry off. The chassid only had daughters. And the not yet chassid had sons. So, this chassid had a he didn't know what to do. He has to marry off his daughters. What's he going to do? He didn't have a penny to his name, he had no choice. He has to go to his brother in the other city and ask him if he can help out. And he sends a letter to his brother that he's coming, and he's coming in this date. And he comes, and the brother with the misnagid, not yet chassid, I'm sorry, slip of the tongue. This brother was very excited to see his Chassidish brother. He held him in high esteem, and he brings him into his mansion. He starts to show him around the house. One room, another room, the chandeliers, the furniture, the ceilings, the high ceilings, the carpets, all the beautiful things, one floor, the next floor. And he's showing him ba'arichus, with great hamnod, showing him his mansion. And at a certain point, the brother was a chassid. He says, listen, I don't know, you want to help me? Good. You don't help me? Also good. I'm leaving now. So he said, what's the matter? Did I do anything wrong? Did I offend you? So the brother said, listen, there's a certain animal that likes to sit in the mud. It sits in the mud and has such pleasure. It enjoys every bit of mud that it sits in. And its only regret in life is that it can't cover its snout also in the mud. That's its only regret in life. It never has to breathe. So it can't cover its snout in the mud. And with that, the chassid left. And possibly we can relate it to us that truth is, I don't know who's in mud over here. I prepared this thing about it on a personal union, but you sit with Anash, no one's in mud. Halak Yidden. But I guess there's different levels of mud. Mud doesn't look like mud necessarily. It could be it's gashmius, but it can also be subtle inyanim of mud. Everyone has their own things that they can get stuck in. And when a chassid goes into yechidus, and he goes to yechidus like one who enjoys to sit in the mud, he's enjoying his life. He has a good time. He's comfortable in his home. He's comfortable with his surroundings. He's relaxed, like the Rebbe said in the video. I want to sit down, relax, I don't have to bother myself, I'm comfortable in my mud. Everyone has different mud, but it's my mud. And if that's the way you go into Yechidus, that you're comfortable, but you also want to hear what the Rebbe has to say, then you can't expect much of a challenge. But once a person comes to Yechidus and he says, okay, I'm in mud. I can't necessarily change it, but I want to get out of my mud. I want to change. I don't want to be the same person as I was yesterday. And each person in their own way, everyone has their thing that they're stuck in. Like it says in Tanya, that there's the Nefesh HaBahamis comes in different ways. There's Eish, Ruach, Mayim, Ofer. Some people have too much passion in things they shouldn't. Some people have Ruach, they like to talk Dvarim B'Teilim from morning till night, and that's what they're stuck in. Other people have Mayim, that they pursue pleasures. They're stuck with that. Others are Ofer, that they're stuck in the depression. That's also a pleasure. People like to be, those who have that Ofer type of Nefesh, also like, it's a Geshmakia thing to hang out in a depressive place. So people get stuck in their mud, but when you go into Yechidus, one has to make sure that they want to change. They want to get out of the mud. That the way I've been till now is not good. Okay, I have a hard time changing exactly. I can't change all at once, but I want to change. And the same is true when we're sitting over here at a Shvat Farbrengen. Shvat every year is a big day. It's the Rebbe's day, the day that the Rebbe became Nasi, and every year it gets stronger and stronger, especially Shnas HaChaim, like Rabbi Gruner mentioned. The Chaim, as the Rebbe brings in the Sicha in Beis Nissen, the Chaim means it's a two-way thing. The Rebbe gives us Chayis, and we bring Chayis to the Rebbe. It's a big year. Every Yud Shvat, and especially Yud Shvat Shnas HaChaim. But if we come to a Farbrengen and we say, I'm comfortable in my mud, I'm going to go home, and I know exactly my schedule after the Farbrengen exam. I'm not ready to change and become a different person when I walk out. So then what can you expect from the Yud Shvat and a Farbrengen? The way to come into a Farbrengen is like this. Elter Rebacher told Michal Slavin that you have to get out of the mud. You have to want to change. You can't be satisfied with the way it is. If you're ready to change, then Yud Shvat is a big day. And when the Rebbe goes up and has whatever aliyah it's going to be, all of us are going to come along with it. Just like we see in Mitzrayim. That by Yetzias Mitzrayim, what happened? We just learned in the Parshas, recent Parsha, that 4/5 of the Yidden stayed in Mitzrayim. Why? What did you have to do already to go out of Mitzrayim? What did you have to do? We know that Bnei Yisrael were stuck in Avodah Zarah. That's why they have to have the seh so that they should see the Avodah Zarah of the Goyim sitting in their house. They have to get over it. They weren't in such a good place. We know that Memte Shari Tuma, they were in filth. At another moment in Mitzrayim, they wouldn't have been able to ever get out. They weren't in a good place. They were stuck in mud. But here's the difference between those who got out and those who didn't. The ones who wanted to stay in the mud, who enjoyed Golus Mitzrayim, they stayed in the mud and never came out. Those who wanted to get out, they weren't tzaddikim, they were far from it, but they wanted to change. Moshe Rabbeinu pulled them out. So the same thing is over here, Yud Shvat. It's the Moshe Rabbeinu's of our generation's day, and we have to come to Yud Shvat wanting to be different people, to change, not be the same person, not be stuck with the same things that we've been stuck with throughout the year. And through that, we'll be zeiche to be pulled out of our Golus Pnimi, and pulled out, more importantly, out of the Golus HaKloli, which we have to be deeply dissatisfied and unhappy with. As the Rebbe said in the last mimer, in Ganzen Tzitresel, so when we realize that it's mud and we want to get out of here, this is the way, and at least the first approach, to taking on board and internalizing what Yud Shvat has to offer. L'chaim.
as we announced before that we're going to be doubling Ma'ariv at 9:30, after which we will learn the first two oisias of the Maimer Basi Vagani, as is the Hoyora, the instruction of the Rebbe. Before Ma'ariv, we're going to make a Siyum Harambam on the Sefer Hafla, which was just finished recently, and Haskalah of Sefer Zroim, and it's very appropriate. It's done at this Farbrengen. Shvat is a time of Chizuk Hiskashrus, to strengthen our Hiskashrus to the Rebbe and to follow, to make Achlotes Tevis, strong resolutions and good resolutions, to follow the Rebbe's Heirois, his instructions and his Takonos, those amendments that he made, and particularly learning Rambam, the daily learning of Rambam. This week's Parsha finishes in Sheni of Bnei Yisrael Yotzim B'Yod Rama. The Yidden went out of Mitzrayim B'Yod Rama, with a raised up hand. So it's brought in the Chassidus that in the Targum says B'Yod Rama Bereish Yelei. Bereish is the letters of Rashbi, B'Shimon Bar Yochai, and Rabbi Yisrael Baal Shem, Chassidus, as he said that Yidden, that Mashiach will come when we learn the Torah of Yisrael Baal Shem. As the Rebbe said also, that it's the name of his father, the Friedrich Rebbe, the Baal HaYilula, Rabbi Yosef Yitzchak, Reb Sholem, and the Arizal, and the Remes to the Rambam. There's the Yod Rama, the Rebbe said, Ein HaGolius Miskanchen Yisrael B'Skus HaMishnayis, that this is a Hakdama to bring Mashiach to learn Halacha, which is Mishnayis, and Rama is Rabbeinu Moshe Hasfardi. That's the connection to the Rambam, and of course, Rabbeinu Melech HaMoshiach. I'm going to call upon Rabbi Michal Stern to make the Siyum, and Rabbi Rebbe Raskin to make the Haskalah.
Okay, this is the last halacha in Sefer Hafla. The Rambam says, Lo'olam al yaktish adam, v'lo yachrim kol nechasim. A person should never give away all of his nechasim, all of his possessions, and if one does this, he's oiver al das hakasuv, like it says, mikol asher loy, and not kol asher loy. You should give from everything you have, but not everything you have. And the Rambam says this is not chassidus, this is shtus, because a person loses all of his money, and he'll be itztorech labrius, himself will have to be received from charity. And then the Rambam says, this is a chassid shoitim of ala oilam. Rather, anyone who's mefazer his money for mitzvahs, he says, Al Yifazer Yoiser Mechonish, don't give more than a fifth. So the Rebbe brings in a sikh that's printed in Yen Malchus that there's another Rambam there's another Mishnah in Peah, and it says that Elu Dvarim Shein Lem Shir, there's the things which don't have a shir, and it goes through various mitzvahs, which there's no limit. So the Rambam in Pirush Mishnah says, this is only mitzvahs mitzvahs that you do with yourself, bikacholim, things like this, then there's no limit. But the Rambam says, but when it comes to mitzvahs you do with your money, then there is a limit, which is chomesh. However, there the Rambam says that's only if there is no ani lefanecha, but there's an ani lefanecha, which is, so it's a steer in the Rambam. So according to, here in Sefer Yad it says you can't give more than a fifth, period. In Sefer HaMitzvahs, in Peah, the Mishnah in Peah, it's Pirush Mishnayis, the Rambam says, if there's an ani that you can give more, right? The Rambam says if there's chassidus, you can give more. So the Rebbe quotes the Chida and says that the difference is, if there's, here in Sefer Hayad, if you're just giving, don't give more than a fifth. Rambam Pirush Mishnayis, which says that there's chassidus to give even more than a fifth, it's talking about if there's an ani lefanecha, there's a poor person asking, then he needs, then you can give even more than a fifth. Anyway, the bottom line is today is your Shvat, and in the Maimer for Tafshin Yud Aleph, the Rebbe says that our Iker Avoid is Al Tikar Vayikra Ela Vayakri, that we have to be Mefarsim Alakus. So the pois can bring that just like there's Gemach in money, so there's Meiser and Choimish in time. So L'chor we could say that today, that especially the Alter Rebbe quotes about not giving more than Choimish in Paragimel Years of Shuvah and Simon Yudik Years of Kodesh, that today you give everything because we need the various tikkunim. So too in time, that definitely there's the inyan that today there's definitely the ani lefanecha, there's people which need our time, and many of us, it's not shaykh to give the choymesh, and our choymesh might not be too helpful for many people here, but people giving the time to help others would be much more precious. So that's something very worthwhile for you, Shvat, to do. Lots of biftoim. Where's Rabbi Rex?
We start today Hilches Kloim, actually the seventh Sefer Kuzroim, and Hilches Kloim, Perek Aleph. What? Okay. Perek Aleph, Halacha Aleph, Hazoreya, Shnei Min Israel, someone who plants two types of seeds, Ke'echot together, in with an Eretz Yisrael, his loike gets malchus, Shenema, the Pasuk says, Sotcho Mitzizra Kiloim, your field, you should not sow Kiloim, and this halach is only applicable in Eretz Yisrael, like the Mishnah says, and not in Chutz La'aretz. The Rebbe, a small nekuda from the Rebbe asks a very obvious question, which is actually brought down in the Radvaz regarding why does the Rambam start with Hilches Kelayim if L'choira in Pirush and National Rambam he explains that we start with Peyo, the Mishnah is Peyo goes first, and then Kelayim, and in the Rambam he starts Kelayim, then Peyo. And the Rambam explains there because in Chumash, Peah goes first, and that's why the Rabbi was the son of the Mishnah that Peah goes first. So the question is, why did the Rambam here in Sefer Yad start with Kelayim? So the Rabbi explains that even though in the Chumash Tak it starts with the Peah goes before Kelayim, but the Rambam, as you know, was a very Mesuda, and he built the Rambam, Abasei Mesuda, like a building. And therefore, B'Pashas, when you come to Israel, the first thing you do is you plant seeds. Peyot comes at the other end of the season once it's all grown, and then you have to cut the corners, then we give the peyot for the Oni. But Israel, the union of sowing comes first. And this is the connection regarding the union of Yud Shvat. Hashachar Prat is that the Rebbe, as we know, was also the Seder Mesuda, his whole building of the 40 years of Messias and Weiter, is all that building where the Rebbe started off on Yud Shvat, where he planted the seed of his Messias. And as we know, there's a union of not Tchilosim to Seifon, and the Nekuda, which was mentioned before in the video, that the Rebbe said that even though he's taking upon himself the Eila Messias, but nevertheless he's not diminishing anyone's Aveda. On the contrary, the Ikra Aveda is on the Chassidim that they should be the ones to bring Mashiach with the help of the Rebbe. The same thing also, he said the same thing, Hoch Nisim Tov Nun Aleph, which is one of the last sichas, which the Rebbe said also, which is even not Chlosim Seifon. And we hope that this seed which the Rebbe planted in us, and we continue to plant, we should grow a binyan based on Mashiach, based binyan is the image of Mary Amen.
Okay, we'll now have in Meirev, the number of Yuvim, I believe, we need to have Minyanim. And after that, Rabbi Mendel Lipke will learn the Maimah for everybody together.
Pesach, Sarah, Pesach. Is your mother watching? Ready? Say hello to your mother. Over here. Say hello to your mother. I was just driving down into
moving, I need to push it back. Where is it?
When do we need to order the matzah?
Wait a minute, Rabbi, side please. Be seated. We're going to now learn the first two oisius of the Maimer Basi Regani Toshin Yud, followed by a continuation of the Farbrengen.
Doesn't say Lugano here, right? It says Lugano Lundi. It means the place that the Abishah says, the place where I was originally. The Shekhinah, the plain away, so the main Shekhinah was down here below. Through the Chet Tzadaz, the Shekhinah went up from the earth to Rakia, to the heavens, and through the sin of Cain, and then the Shekhinah went up from the first heaven to the second and third, and then through the Torah Mabul, the Shekhinah continued going up. From the third to the fourth, and it says, Medrash Shabbat, the Bosek, Eishmas, Kela, Shabbat, Kim, Salah, Bakan, Omer, Rababa, that it doesn't say over here, Mehalech, rather, it says, Mishalech, implying that the Shekhinah was jumping, keeping on going up higher and higher. Then seven tzaddikim came along and brought the Shekhinah down below. Ram was like he brought down the Shekhinah from the seventh Rakia, from the seventh heaven to the sixth. Yitzchak from the sixth to the fifth. The Moshe Rabbeinu was the seventh. Kol Hashem all the seventh of beloved brought it down here below on earth. Main Gila, because it was in the Beis Hamikdash, as a pasuk says, "Was the Mikdash Shechante b'soicham." It doesn't say b'soicham in it, rather it says b'soicham, meaning in each and every year. This is the pshat of tzaddikim Yeshua as Vishkin Alad Aleh. The tzaddikim Yeshua as refers to Gan Eden. Why is that? Because they are drawing down the level of Shoych and Admar of Kadosh. They're drawing down the Shekhinah that should be in a revealed way down here below. This is what it means. Basit Gan Nundi, the Eibush coming back to the place where he was originally, because the main Shekhinah was down here below. The explanation of this is we know that the whole purpose of the creation of the whole world and all the worlds was because the Eibishter had it in Savakash Baruch, the Eibishter had a these days Baruch, they were Tachtoinim that it should be Gili, because down here below, through the avoid of the person, through his Skafi and his Hapcha. That the Neshama should come down here below, clothe itself in the Kufan and the Shabahamas, they will conceal and hide, cover over the of the Neshama, and nevertheless the Neshama will come along and elevate and refine the body in the Nefesh Bahamas and also his portion of the world. This is what it means making a place for the Shekhinah in each and every Yid. This is through the Avodah of Birurim, through his Skafi and his Hapcha. As it says, Skafi Sitrachah, when we bend the Sitrachah, this causes the glory of the Eibishter to shine in all of the world. So when it says B'chul in all of the world, what it's referring to is a level of oil which is in all the worlds equally. Referring to the Oyer HaSoiv of Kalam, which shines in all the worlds equally. Because generally within the Oilmas we know there's different Madreidos. You cannot compare the Oilmas or the higher worlds to the lower worlds. In the higher worlds the oil is in a much more revealed way, and in the lower worlds the oil is not shining in such a great way, and sometimes the oil is completely concealed, and there's many different levels of this. As the Pasuk says, Afiyadi, as the Oris giving you Tip Chashamayim, so the Medrash says, the Eibishter stretched on his right hand, and created the heavens, and stretched on his left hand, and created the earth. It's known that the right hand represents a great revelation, and this is what it means giving you Tip Chashamayim. Shamayim, referring to the higher Elomois, the Gilui, the revelation is up from the level of Yamin, from the right, which means a greater Gilui Oyer, and the Oyer itself comes in a revealed way. On the other hand, Eretz refers to the lower worlds, and that's coming from the left, where the Oyer is not so revealed, and the Oyer itself is in a very concealed way. As it's known the difference between the four Elomois, as the Pasuk says, referring to the four Elomois of Atzilus, B'ri, Yitzir, Asiyah. You cannot compare the Oyer the way it's in Atzilus to the way it is in Biyah. In Atzilus, the word Atzilus itself means Gilui, revealing that which was concealed. The word Atzilus also means Etzli, something that's near and close to Hashem. And the word Atzilus also means an expression of something that was just separated, taken from Hashem. Meaning to say that Atzilus, even though it's an Olam, it is one of the Olamis, but nevertheless it's generally considered one of the Olamis Ein Sof, whereas the world of Bria is already the beginning of existence of Yesh Me'ayim. This is what it means, Kol HaNikra B'Shmi V'Lechvoidi. The word Shmi and Kvoidi means that which is completely united with me, that which is the world of Atzilus. That's a world of Yichud, of complete unity, and escalos where everything is included of each other. There, though, it is in a very revealed way. You can't compare that at all to the way it is in the Oilmas of Biyah. Within Biyah itself, there's also great differences in various different ways how the Gilui Oyer is the way it's in the world of Bria to the way it is in the world of Yitzir and Asiyah. However, all of these differences are only in the Oyer the way it comes down to give chayis into the worlds in the way of Mamalek Kalam. But then there's the Oyer which is completely higher than having any sort of connection to the Olam, the level of Soyev Kalam, which is completely surrounding and encompassing all the worlds, and that Oyer is shining in all the worlds equally. This is what we mean when we say that when we bend the Sitrachah, the Oyer comes b'chul olam, and it means it's a kind of Oyer, which the way it comes down is in all the worlds equally. But in order to draw down this Oyer into all the worlds, that's with the avoid of Birurim by Skafi and Hapcha specifically. This is what it means, Skafi Sitrachah. When we are foiled through our avoid of the Skafi Sitrachah, transforming darkness into light, so then we have the additional Oyer that comes specifically through the darkness. That is when the darkness is transformed into light, so that causes a much greater in you within the light itself, that the Oyer shines in a revealed way all the way down here in this world. That means the Oyer comes down in a way, it's a kind of Oyer that's in all the worlds equally, shining even down here. This is the Pshat of Skafi Sitrachah. The Oyer that comes down is the Oyer HaSoiv of Kalam, which comes down in a way that encompasses and surrounds all the worlds equally, and therefore it shines down here as much as it shines up above. This is what it means, that we get what's called the Yisrin, or the advantage in the greater light, that is Stalik, that the shines in all the worlds, that the Oyer HaSoiv shines and is revealed. Kitzur, we explained how the Kol Kavan and the Bris Oilam is the Shviat Dir B'Tachtoinim, this happens to the Skafi and the Hapcha, drawing down the Oyer HaSoiv, and that is in all worlds equally. Now this is what I avoid in the Mishkan and Mikdash Torah, avoid in Sabirurim, the avoid of Skafi, which leads up and brings it out to this Hapcha, transforming darkness into light, and therefore one of the main avoids in the Mishkan Mikdash was the avoid of Karbonis, which is really a spiritual avoid of Ruchnis in our avoid of Ruchnis in the Nefesh. This was the idea of the Kohen participating with their avodah, and Rabbi doing their avodah, and their shira and zimra, by bringing the carbon, which is all avodah ruchnis. And the idea of a carbon avodah in the nefesh adam is, as the pasuk says, "Adam ki yakar mekayim carbon la'avaya min abehema min abakar min chulu." So seemingly the question is, if the pasuk is only coming to explain to us the laws of the carbon, so the pasuk seemingly should have said, "Adam became a person from amongst you ki yakar carbon." They'll want to bring the carbon to Hashem. Then these would be the laws of how the carbon should be brought. Why does it say Adam ki yakriv mikem? So it's known that the explanation of this is that the pasuk is also coming to tell us the general idea of what carbonis is in our avoid in our own nefesh. This is Pshat Adam Ki Yaakov. A person, when he wants to become close to Elikos, then Mikem, Karban La'avaya means it's up to you, it's dependent on you to be a Karban La'Hashem. That means to be close to Hashem. It's no, the idea of Karbonos is about bringing our own koiches, our own faculties and senses close to Hashem. And what the Pasuk is coming to tell us is that when a person wants to get close to Hashem, it's up to each and every one of us. A person should never say, how could I get close to Hashem, especially when we know our own essence. How lowly we are and stained and soiled with various different negative things. So seemingly we're so far from Hashem, how could I get close to Hashem? And that's why the Pasuk is saying, Mikem, it's completely up to you. Every single Yid could say, Moshe, you might say, when will my actions reach and come to the actions of our office? Of Rabbi Yaakov, there's absolutely no limitations of your rule. There's nothing holding us back, Chas v'Shalom, to go up and to get close to Hashem, and Hashem doesn't demand of us things that we can't manage to do, and the Eibishter shines and reveals himself to each and every person according to his ability. As the Medrash Rabbi says, what I ask, I don't ask according to my ability, but according to the ability of each and every Yid. And through this, every single Yid has a prayer to go up and to reach the highest levels. This is the Pshat Adam Ki Yaakov, that for a person to become close to Hashem, it's up to you. And Mikem Karban La'avaya means you have to bring from yourself the carbon to Hashem, meaning to say, we're not only speaking about bringing the physical animal, but Mikem Mamish, literally bringing yourself from your behema, the behema inside the heart of a person, which is Nefesh Bahamas. Then the Pasuk goes on and says, Minat Bakar, Minat Soyim, from the cattle and from the sheep. These are various different levels within the Nefesh Bahamas. As it's known, the idea behind this that there's various different ways of refinement and avoiding each and every person. Some people's Nefesh Bahamas is more like a goring ox, and very, very coarse and lowly midos, and some people are more like a tzoy, like a sheep, which is a more subtle animal. Even though it's also considered a behema, but nevertheless it's a more subtle way, as explained in Arikis and Kuntrasat Tefillah Tafri Samach. And this is the Pshat HaShtikivus Karbanchem, that each person has to bring his own carbon. Regarding the Gashim Zivik carbon, a person has to bring the Gashim Zivik carbon on the Mizbeach, and then there was the fire coming from above. As it says in Yuma that the fire was crashing down like a lion, and as Rashi explains that this was a coal that fell down from heaven. In the time of Shlomo, and I was on the Mizbeach, and the Zohar it says this is considered like a lion that was consuming the karbonos. So to now there's also the fire coming from above. These are the coals of fires in the Nefesh Elikis, as the Pasuk says, the Shofer Rishbeyesh shall have his Yudkis. The Medrash says just like the fire from above. The fire does not extinguish the water, and the water doesn't extinguish the fire. That is, that within the nature of the Nefesh Elikis, there is these coals of fire of Avat Elikos, similar to the fire of above, that the water can never put it out, and the water is referring to the many waters of the preoccupation and worries of Parnasa and various different things that disturb the person and try to stop him from Torah and Avodah, and nevertheless all these rivers cannot wash away this Ava. Because these coals of fire of Ava and Nefesh Elikis are similar to the fire of above, that water can never put it out. This has to be the akrav, and this is where we need to bring our Nefesh Bahamas, that it too should have this Avat Elikos, as the Pasuk says, we have to show like that, but as I'll tell us, it means B'shnei Yitzarech, that also the Nefesh Bahamas should have an Avat Elikos. This comes through the Nefesh Elikis clothing itself in the Nefesh Bahamas, because originally the Nefesh Bahamas has absolutely no idea, no feeling in matters of Elikus. But by the Nefesh Elikis coming down and contemplating in matters of Elikus in a way that Nefesh Bahamas can also understand, that itself brings the Nefesh Bahamas closer. As it's explained elsewhere, that it becomes a general chikik engraving in the Nefesh Bahamas, that Elikus starts appreciating. Elikus is something also that can be related to and understood. So then we come to the Rav Tvois B'Koyach Sher, the extra additional Koyach Daf, but through the Nefesh Bahamas, that it's transformed from its animalistic state and it goes up and becomes included in the fire and the desire of the Nefesh Elikis. And just like with the Gashmi Zivik carbon, the sparks of Doim, Tzemei were all elevated, so too, by bringing Beruchnius, our Nefesh Bahamas, and being transformed in the dark side of Nefesh Bahamas to light, this is the Pshat Vaslim and Shkanti B'Soichim, that in each and every one of us through Avodah in a way of Iskafia, mainly in the way that comes to his Hapcha. So when we have Iskafia, it's because the Eibishter's glory to shine in all the worlds in a revealed way, that level which is Soiv Kalam. Kitzer, we explained the Avodah of the Karbonis in the own person's own Nefesh, and the Yaakov has to be the carbon that comes from yourself. We explained by the Eish Shalamayla and the Eish Shalamata, referring to the Avad, Nefesh Elikis, and Nefesh Bahamas. Now the Avad and Nefesh Bahamas comes by the Nefesh Elikis clothing itself inside the Nefesh Bahamas.
There's a story that's told about the Frierdiker Rebbe, that when the Frierdiker Rebbe was a young child, he once managed to get together a reasonable amount of money, and he thought to himself, well, how is he going to spend this money? And obviously his first thought was that he should spend it on buying Sfarim, Sifrei Kodesh. But then he had a second thought, and the second thought was that maybe it would be kedai to buy himself a watch. It wasn't just a common thing that a child especially should own a watch, but he thought it might be a worthwhile investment to buy a watch. Why? Because this way he'll be able to count all the minutes and seconds of his day and make sure they're all utilized properly. And after much deliberation between the Svarim and the watch, he came to a conclusion that the watch is the way he wants to go. And he checked in with his mother, Sarah, and she agreed that the watch would be the right thing to acquire, the right acquisition. Later on, in the Frierdiker Rebbe's life, we also see times that the Frierdiker Rebbe spoke about the importance of valuing time, Like the Rebbe once expressed at Farbrengen, that he once saw the Frierdiker Rebbe. He went into the Frierdiker Rebbe's room 15 minutes before he was going to a big trip to Moscow, and he saw the Frierdiker Rebbe completely relaxed, involved in something that required his deep attention, as if he wasn't going anywhere. And the Rebbe expressed, like, to such an extent, the Frierdiker Rebbe said that where a person is, he has to be. Right now, he doesn't have to leave yet. Right now, he's still here. He has to be fully 100% here. And the last mimer from the Frierdiker Rebbe, as we know, it's 20 oisius, which we go through every year, but it's divided into 4. Each mimer is 4 oisius. The first mimer was meant to be learned Yud Shvat, the Yartzeit of Rebbetzin Rivka, and the second mimer was for Yud Gimel Shvat, and the third mimer was for Purim, and the fourth mimer was for Beis Nissen. So the mimer of Yud Shvat, that was meant to be learned on the Yom HaElula, on Yud Shvat, the last part of the mimer says a person doesn't know when his time comes, and they don't ask him, they don't advise him, like, you go and take care of your affairs. The person doesn't know. And the Frierdiker Rebbe speaks about how there's a shtus over there, shtus teduma, say that a person has fixed times for all of the not important things, but the things that he came, his life mission is for, that he doesn't remember. So we see this very important theme of utilizing and realizing the preciousness of time that a person has. And maybe no better way to understand how to utilize the precious time is looking at the well-known sikha of 2 weeks from now, Parshas Mishpatim, where the Rebbe asks the question, the famous sikha, that Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, we know that when he was lying on his deathbed, his Talmidim came into him and asked him, and they came into him and they see that he's crying, and they asked him, why are you crying? So he first explained that he's crying because he would be crying even if he was going to Melech Basar V'Dam, to a king of flesh and blood. There's a whole arichas there, but a king of flesh and blood, how much more so he's going to Melech Malchei HaMlachim. And then he added, in addition to that, that he sees 2 pathways in front of him, and he's a pathway to Gan Eden and a pathway to Gehinnom, and he doesn't know which way he's going. So I shouldn't cry. That was his answer. And in this Sikha, which really was a Farbrengen, I think in Tafshin Yud Beis, the Rebbe asked the obvious and powerful question. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai obviously was not worried about specific Gehenna, that he might get hurt in Gehenna. That's why he wasn't crying that he might get hurt and burn in Gehenna. No, we just recently lost a big chassid, oldest chassid, Mendel Morozov, and there was a lot of things going on around him. But one of the things I'm sure everyone saw is that only a couple of years ago he was sitting at Farbrengen, and he said that all of his friends are calling him. He's having dreams. His friends are calling him to come and join the Farbrengen Lamaila. And he said, what do you need me? You have Reb Nissen Nemenov, and you have, I don't know, he listed some mashpim that are there. What do you need me for? So his Chaverim answered him. This is what he said at a Farbrengen. I think it was Yupes Thomas. He said, his Chaverim answered him that those Chassidim are in Gan Eden. We're talking about over here where we're hanging out. So he wasn't worried about showing that. He should have a lichtige Gan Eden. So anyway, I once heard, I don't know exactly where this comes from, but I heard this when I was in yeshiva, that Gehenna means that they give you forks and you're sitting by a big meal. The problem is that the fork has a very long handle and you can only hold it by the tip of the handle. And it's impossible to fit the fork into your mouth. You can get the food, but you can't get it into your mouth. That's the Gehenna. But for Chassidim, it's no big deal, because Chassidim, it's not a problem. You feed your friend, and your friend feeds you, and everything's fine. They're perfectly happy over there. Anyway, so Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai certainly was not worried about the pains of Gehenna. That's not what he was crying about. His crying was because he wasn't sure whether he took the right path in life, whether he lived life the way he's meant to. Those were his tears. And so therefore the Rebbe asked this Sturmdike question, Rabbi Yechanan ben Zakkai, who was compared to Moshe Rabbeinu, he lived 120 years just like Moshe Rabbeinu and like Hillel, and the Gemara says all kinds of shvachim about Rabbi Yechanan ben Zakkai, about Ma'aseh Merkava and Ma'aseh Bereshis and all the, he left nothing unlearned, nothing uncovered. This Rabbi Yechanan ben Zakkai, the leader of Am Yisrael, should have a question whether he lived life according to what he's meant to, according to what the Eibusher wants. What kind of question was that? Of course he did. Where was the question? And so at this Farbrengen, and the Tzich the Rebbe explained that Rabbi Yechanan ben Zakkai lived by a pasuk. It says Yamim Yutzaru, that a man was given a specific amount of days, specific amount of years, months, days, minutes, exactly according to what a person needs to fulfill their mission here. You're given exactly the right amount, not an extra minute and not a minute too little, to fulfill what the Eibusher put you here for. And he knew that, and he lived by it. So therefore, he didn't have a moment to start thinking about himself, where he's holding. There's no time to think about where he's holding. There's only time to do his Aveda, which his Aveda was Hafatzas HaTeirah, spreading Teirah, and Kiyum HaMitzvahs. He was 100% occupied with doing his Aveda, and therefore he didn't have a minute to think about himself. Not a moment in his entire life, because there's not a second to waste. Like a soldier that's out there in battle, when he's fighting the war, it could be that if he does some heroic acts, he'll be upgraded. He'll reach a higher level in the army. That's possible. But of course, a good soldier, when he's in battle, he's not thinking about his upgrade and what's going to happen to him. There's no time to think. There's life at stake. Your life and your friend's life. He's on the battlefield, and the only time he thinks is how to fight the battle better. His Kriyash Mashalamita is, what can we do better to fight this battle and to win this battle? There's no time for personal reflection about where he's holding. That's what it means to value time. But as we learn in the minor, there's shtus, there's folly that we have to deal with. And as the Frierdiker Rebbe says in the minor, that the folly leads a person to spending time on things that are completely not important. And establishing those times, breakfast, lunch, dinner, when I'm going to have my coffee, when I'm going to have my holiday. These are the things that become fixed. That I already know 6 months in advance. I already booked the holiday house. I know exactly where I'm going. It's all worked out. But the important things of what the neshama came down for, sometimes that can be forgotten. And it's a shtus de kedusha. It's a shtus de lumas. It's a folly. Every aver is a folly. Whether it be an aver kipshutai, or if it is an avera, meaning that, as we know, it says in Chassidus, Aveda Zara. What's Aveda Zara? Aveda Zara doesn't only mean Aveda Zara, that you go and serve idols. Aveda Zara can also mean Aveda Zara. An Aveda, it's a real Aveda, but it's Zara, it's foreign to you. That's not what you should be doing with your life. Sometimes, that there's people out there that you have to put on tefillin. There's a bunch of Israelis hanging out outside, and you need to put on tefillin, and you excuse yourself that right now I have to learn my Chassidus, and I'm doing something holy. I have to do my Rambam. You do your Rambam later. There's Yidden out there that have to put on tefillin. You're doing an Aveda, but it's Aveda Zara. It's a foreign. It's not what you're meant for. B'Hashgacha Pratis, you're here, and there's a bunch of Yidden out there that have to put on tefillin, or whatever the Aveda that's the call of the hour. Then any other Aveda is Aveda Zara. And it comes from a Ruach Shtus, from a spirit of folly. As explained, we all know, it's explained in Chassidus, what's the Ruach Shtus? What is the spirit of folly? Why is it Shtus? What's the folly? Okay, I prefer to sit in base medrash than to go out. Why is it folly? What's the folly? Or the person wants to do an Avera, he's attracted to an Avera. Why is it shtus? So the shtus is b'pashtus that every yid, as we're learning in recent prakim in Tanya, every yid it's so essential to him, his connection to the Eibishter, to the point that he'll give up everything not to lose that connection. He's happy to give up his life. No problem. I don't want to be disconnected from Hashem. There's no way in the world that I can be disconnected from Hashem. And as it's brought in the Maimer this year, I think in Lam Ches, brought in the Maimer that it's not only in extreme situations, you know, when a person's threatening your life, you're ready to give up your life for the sake of the Eibishter. It's even in day-to-day life, like the Rambam brings that if a get has to be given, and the person doesn't want to give a get, and the get has to be done b'ritzoyna, you have to want to give the get. So you twist his arm until he says, okay, I want to. What kind of wanting to is that? Al pi halacha, the person has to want to give the get. But he doesn't want to, and the proof is that you have to twist his arm, so he should say, I want to. He doesn't want to. Why is it I want to? So the Rambam says, because he really does want to. Every Yid wants to do what the Eibishter wants. And it's based in paskins that he has to give a get. He really wants to give the get. So it's not only in extreme situations. Every Yid has this deep desire to be connected to Hashem to the point that he's ready to give up everything. So you can't give up this little temptation. You know, starting from Adam Arishan, you can't give up the fig. Okay, it was a big temptation because so much was going to get. But you can't give up. You're ready to give up your life. You can't give up the little temptation. You're ready to give up your life. You can't pull yourself out of your comfort zone and go and put on tefillin with that other Yid. Of course it's uncomfortable, but it's a lot more uncomfortable to give up your life, and that you would gladly do. Certainly, you should be ready to do the call of the hour, the avodah of the hour. And this that a person doesn't is a ruach shtus. It's faulty. It makes no sense. There's an interesting Gemara. That also maybe gives a little bit of insight into the ruach shtus of a person not doing what the call of the hour is, whether it be in Sur Meirah or in an avodah, which is Zara. The Gemara says that that we have to, when there's Eidim, you have to threaten them. Because Torah believes Eidim. When you have two Eidim, we trust them, even in Dinei Nefashos, even if it's a life matter, capital punishment, we trust two Eidim. So before we trust them, you have to threaten them. You have to scare them off that they shouldn't make up a story. Now, how do you threaten them? So there's three opinions. The first opinion says the way you threaten them is you tell them that false testimony brings famine to the world. That's the first opinion. But the next man Domar doesn't like that opinion, challenges it and says famine. It's known that a person who has some kind of melacha, some kind of craft that he does well, he doesn't have to worry about famine. If you have your tools and you know how to make even during a famine, you can manage. So that might not scare them off. So the next Mandomer says, okay, so we threaten them with a plague. It says that if there's false testimony, then it brings a plague, brings death to the world. Everyone's afraid of death. But the Gemara challenges that too and says death, they might be of the believers that says that even if there's a plague for 7 years, a person doesn't die unless it's their time. The Eibishter decides when it's a person's time, and even if there's a plague, it makes no difference. So it might not scare them. Third opinion, which isn't challenged, the third opinion says that how do you threaten the Eidim? You threaten the Eidim by showing them that even those who hire them to lie look down at them as scum. And the Gemara brings a proof that even those who hire you to give false testimony look at you as a lowlife. The Gemara brings a proof from Yezebel, that Yezebel hired false witnesses against Novice, who had a vineyard, who her husband Achav was a wicked king and he wanted that vineyard. And how's he going to get the vineyard? So she hired false witnesses to testify that Novice sinned, and that way he did a serious crime, and that way he'll be killed, and her husband, the king, will be able to take the vineyard. And the pasuk says that Yezebel refers to these false witnesses as Bnei Belial, the lowlifes. They're good for nothings. So that even the person who hires you as a false witness looks at you as a lowlife. Okay, you're helping me out, but come on, how low can you fall? And there's no challenge in the Gemara to that opinion. A person doesn't want to feel he wants to have at least a chevra, but even his chevra are looking at him as a low, like, oh, you can go and give false testimony. That already will stop a person from giving false testimony. And the same is true when a person does an avera. And avera is the same inyan. That, as it says in Tanya, that an avera means there's definitely klippa in this world. There's challenges, there's evil, there's an industry of evil that's there to promote evil. But that whole industry of evil is there. It's doing kudas Hashem shamra rucham. They're doing exactly what the Eibusher wants, in a dark way, in a negative way. But at the end of the day, it's there because the Eibusher wants it to create a challenge that you should overcome and find inner strength. As Bilam says, that he can't go against the word of Hashem. So the whole evil realm, as dark as it looks, at the end of the day is in the fold. It's part of the Eibusher's world. It's all following what Hashem wants. And the one loser, the one outcast, is the one who gives in, the Yid, the Rahman al-San gives in to that klippa. He's the one outcast. The whole people laughs at. Everyone's doing what the Eibusher wants. We're all on the side of Kedusha. The one outcast is this one person who gives in and misses the point of what the Nefesh HaBahamis, the Yitzhar, is there for. He misses the point, and he gives in, and he's the outcast. And no one wants to be an outcast. Like we see that even the Edom who are ready to lie. They're ready to lie. These are obviously not high moral people. They're ready to lie. But to feel like an outcast, even from those who hired him, that they can't have. So the Indian of an Avera is without it is an Indian of Ruach Shtus. To do an Avera where you become the outcast, you're lower than any other part of this world, is an absolute folly. It makes no sense. And the only way, as it says in the Maimer, the only way to correct this Ruach Shtus, whether it be a Ruach Shtus of Avera Kumshuta, or a Ruach Shtus of a higher level, Aveda, but it's Zara, that you're missing the point and you're not focused on what you have to be doing with your life. Also Ruach Shtus on a higher level, but it's the same business. You're not doing what the Eibusher wants. You're not connected, you're not attached, you're not living life the way you're meant to be. The only way to deal with it is, you have to go to the opposite extreme. As it says in the mind, you have to go to Shtus to Kedusha. Shtus to Kedusha means that you don't, it's not calculated, there's no selfish drive. Usually a person makes decisions based on what is good for them. Seichel to get decisions. Shtus to Kedusha is extreme, like the Rebbe says, the Rebbe said, I'm crazy about Mashiach. Extreme, total dedication. As we see by Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, that he was totally dedicated. He didn't have a moment to think about himself. There's no I in the picture. It's just what the Eibusher wants. Every single moment of his life, he was completely dedicated to the shlichus of Hashem. He didn't have a moment to think about himself. Or as the Rebbe says in the Maimer about the difference between Rabbi Akiva and Avraham Avinu. Rabbi Akiva was a high level. He wanted Mosa Yavai Liyadiv Yakaimenu. He wanted Mesiras Nefesh. He's the one of the Asara Haruge Malchus which corresponds to Hashem. We know each one of the Asara Haruge Malchus was corresponding to one of the brothers that was part of the plot to sell Yosef, and Rabbi Akiva is the one that corresponds to Hashem. But nevertheless, that's a very high level, but there's still a little bit of an I over there. There's an I want to have Mesiras Nefesh. I want to reach this high level. Avraham Avinu, there's only the Eibusher, only what Hashem wants. If it takes Mesiras Nefesh, it'll be Mesiras Nefesh. If it's normal life, it's normal. It doesn't make a difference. Whatever the Eibusher wants, I'm here 100% dedicated. There's no I. There's just the Shlichus of Hashem. That's Shtus to Kedusha. And although it's a very high level, and it seems like, I don't know, higher than anything we can ever dream of. But as the Rebbe says in the Maimer, you're talking right, you're not shaykhted on your own. Maybe you don't see any milas inside yourself, and you don't feel that you're even close to anything even close to that. But nevertheless, we're Der Hashvi, and we have the Keiches of the Rishon, and for us Chassidim we have the Keiches of the Rebbe, and as the Rebbe says in the Maimer, that the Frierdiker Rebbe, for us the Rebbe gives us the Keiches, and the Rebbe is there. There's a story that was going around and it changed, I don't know exactly the details, but there was some, maybe I got these details not 100% right, but there was a chassid who wasn't well, and he couldn't drink mashke, but the Rebbe told him, it was Frierdiker Rebbe, Rashab told him he should drink mashke, say l'chaim. And he drank the mashke and he got better. and he expressed to the next Rebbe, I don't remember who it was, that how so he expressed to the Rebbe, he expressed the figure, how could it be that I could, this is like a mice nisim over here. I'm not well, I'm not allowed to do mashkin, I got better hundreds of work. So the Friedrich Rebbe said, if you're an Eved Hashem, if you're a servant of Eibusher, then you work higher than Ishtalshus, higher than Teva. You're higher than Teva. So Reb Chaim Fegan said, well, you have to be an Eved Hashem for that. So the Friedrich Rebbe said to him that to be connected to an Eved Hashem is good enough. So the same is with us. It's a high level, but the Rebbe tells us in Sichas, this is the Rebbe talking to us. The Rebbe not talking to Malachim, the Rebbe talking to us, that we have to learn from Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. I remember I once gave over this Sicha, it was a shliach in Toronto, and we gave it over in Yisrael on Halucha, and Shabbos, and there's a shul over there in Toronto. There's a Yid, the Rav, who's actually an author, and I saw some of his books in golds, and I'm sure you wouldn't mind if I share what he expressed. His name is Rabbi Gottesman, Uri Gottesman, I think, something like that. And he used to take us, he appreciated us coming to his shul for Ta'alucha and giving and he would drive us home after Shabbos every week. And after we chazed the Sikha, I don't know if it was me or a friend of mine, someone chazed the Sikha. So he said, I wish you would have, where were you when I was younger? I wish you would have told me this when I was younger. The truth is, in the Sikha, the Rebbe says that even though you have to appreciate this, but if you didn't, once you jump on the bandwagon and at some point you start living according to that, then there's the problem is, all the lost time that you didn't run outside and put on tefillin with the Yid who had to put on tefillin, or you wasted time in one way or another, the Eibusher fills it up. Anyway, that was his complaint. Where were you until now? But if the Rebbe tells us in a Sikha about Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai and Tzorah to us, so obviously we can do it. Maybe it's not really with our koiches, it definitely isn't with our koiches. We're Der Ashvi, Ikvus of the Mashiach, the Malach HaMavis of the body is the Akev. So we're Ikvus of the Mashiach. We're very low neshamis and we don't understand much and we don't feel much. But with the koiches of the Rebbe, this is the Rebbe telling us. When the Rebbe gives us this Sikha, the Rebbe is telling us you can do it because the Rebbe gave you this Hayrah, and the Hayrah is an empowerment to get there, that a person should be totally dedicated to his shlichus, whatever it is, whatever your shlichus is, obviously Torah, mitzvahs, your family, to spread to your family, your surroundings, each person according to their thing, but you can be totally dedicated to your shlichus in a way of shtus de kedusha, 100%, to the point that you don't think about yourself at all. And through this, we're mehapich, the shtus of the lumazeh, the folly of getting stuck in the mud, and getting stuck in narishkeit, and getting stuck in the wrong shlichus, the wrong avodah that's easier but not what you should be doing. And through the shtus kedusha, we transform it into kedusha, and we bring down the shechina, the matmas Farbrengen, and we should see it taken from the yad this year, now, Yud Shvat, Chaim Shana. There's no time like now. We should see the scholars of Melech HaMashiach, Chaim. Chaim. There's a story about two brothers that got into a fight about a Yerusha. And they didn't talk to each other for a long time. And then came the day when the older brother was marrying off his child. And he felt like, to the wedding of my child, of course, I want my brother to be there. So he sent his brother an invitation. But the other brother, the younger brother, got the invitation. He thought, nah, he doesn't really mean it. And he decided he's not going to the wedding. The day came closer and closer. And this younger brother is thinking to himself, should I go, should I not go? The day of the wedding, he decides, I'm not going. I'm not going, he doesn't want me there, we're fighting, he just sent me an invitation to be Yetzirah. No one should say that he didn't send an invitation to his brother, I'm not going. And he put on his pajamas. You know, as a stark, we're staying home. And the older brother sees the wedding's going on, and his brother's not there. He felt bad. He's marrying off his only child. Sorry, it doesn't say anywhere it was his only child, but he's marrying off his child, and his brother's not celebrating with him. It's not a good feeling. So he asked one of the members of the band, who was a violinist, he says to him, can you please go to my brother's house and play for him this and this song? I know it's his favorite song as a child. Play it for him and try to lure him in to coming to the wedding. So the other brother, who's at home in his pajamas, he's tossing and turning because it's fart. His brother's marrying off a child, but he's not going. It's hard for him to fall asleep. And all of a sudden he hears this beautiful music coming from the window. So he steps outside to see where it's coming from. He sees this violinist and he starts to follow. As the violinist slowly walks forward, he follows. It's the most amazing music. It's his favorite song, and he's playing it so beautifully. He follows and follows. And finally, the violinist manages to pull him into the wedding hall. And he comes to the dance floor, and there's his brother. And the older brother sees the younger brother. They embrace, and they hug, and they dance. They celebrate. And afterwards, the older brother says, I'm so happy he came to the wedding, but why did he have to come in your pajamas? And the point, we know that Yud Shvat, Bechlal throughout the Rebbe's Nesius, but right away starting Yud Shvat, the Rebbe said a statement. What was the statement? That Avas Hashem and Avas Yisrael and Avas HaTorah is Kul Echad. There's no such thing as loving Hashem and not loving a fellow Jew. The litmus test of if you really love Hashem, or you really love the Torah, is whether you love another Jew. And if you don't love another Jew, and another Jew doesn't mean another Jew, it means every other Jew. If you don't love every other Jew, then it's a question on your Avos Hashem. Because in that Jew lies a likus. As we learn in this year's in Bas Ligani, that there's a Yud inside every single Jew, whether it's revealed or not. Every Yid has a likus, has the Eibusher in him. If you love Eibusher, you love every Yid. And if you don't love every Yid, then it's a question on your love of the Eibusher. That was the statement that Chabad Lubavitch and the 7th generation started off with. And then you have the first Maimer, the Rebbe said that the Rabbi, whatever they asked from us, they were Dugma Chaya. They didn't ask us to do anything that they didn't do themselves. And what Indian does the Rebbe choose to use as an example? Avas Yisrael. And the Rebbe goes through each one of the Rabbeim, a story, each one of the Rabbeim a story of Avas Yisrael. And then you go all the way to that's the first edited Maimer. Then you go all the way to the last, to date, edited Maimer, V'atet Tzav. And again, at the end of the Maimer, what's the Rebbe speaking about Avas Yisrael and how there's an Indian of Avas Yisrael that can pass Periklam and Beis of Tanya based on what's explained in the Maimer, Avas Yisrael. So obviously, the Indian of Avas Yisrael is an essential for us Chassidim. And we know in this year's Maimer, it speaks about how Dalid turns into Hay. Dalid turns into Hay and Reish turns into Kuf. As explained in the Maimer, the Dalid is a roof and a right leg. He turns into hay, which is a roof, a right leg, and a left leg. And Reish is also a roof and a right leg. It's just missing the Yud, it's missing the Bittul to Hashem. But it's also a roof and a right leg. And it turns into a Kuf, which is a roof and a right leg and a left leg. And in the Maimer, the Rebbe explains that the Yud defines whether you're Kedusha or Klippa. If you're nullified, Yud is the smallest letter, it's the idea of Bittul. If you're nullified to the Eibusha, then you're Kedusha. And if you're not, you're Klippa. So the Dalet is a holy letter, and the Reish is an unholy letter. But what are these letters? What is the roof and the right leg? And what does it mean that the Dalet turns into hay? So in the Maimer, the Rebbe explains that the roof is Machshava, it's the highest level. Highest Lavush. These are the garments of the soul. The clothes of the soul. There's the Machshava, Dibur, and Maisen. The top line is the Machshava. With a Yud in the back means it's a Machshava of the whole of Kedusha. And the right leg is Dibur. So you have Machshava and you have Dibur. And that's Dalet. Dalet is Machshava and Dibur. And Machshava and Dibur of Kedusha leads to Hay, which is Machshava, Dibur, and Maisen. When you have Machshava, Dibur in Yana Kedusha, it will lead you automatically to a Maisa of Kedusha. And the opposite is also true. If you're a Reish, which you don't have the Yud in the back, and no Bittul to Hashem, it doesn't have to be a sin, but it's Machshava and Dibur that's not nullified to Hashem, so it will lead to Maisa, to not good Maisa, to the Kuf, which the Kuf has a long line, taking you out of the realm of Kedusha and into Klippa, into negative territory. So we see that everything starts with Machshava and Dibur. Although it's true that the Inyan this year is that Mais is the Yikr, but Mais, it comes from Machshava and Dibur. The Dalet turns into the Hay. And if we're talking about Avos Yisrael, then also in Avos Yisrael, which is the Inyan of Kedusha, the Dalet turns into the Hay. Which means that a person has to make sure Avos Yisrael is not just in Mais. It starts in Machshava and it starts in Dibur. And if you have Machshava and Dibur in Avos Yisrael, then it leads to Mais of Avos Yisrael. It's not good enough just to have the left leg. You have to start with Machshava and Dibur. You have to have Avos Yisrael in your thought, Avos Yisrael in your speech. You have to guard what you say in your house. You can't just loosely talk, even if you're talking to your own family members. So it's Hamish, we talk. But you have to guard what you say about another Yid. Avos Yisrael is what you say in your home, in private space. And even in your Machshava, what you think about another Yid. That's part of Avos Yisrael. That's what we learned this year's in the Maimer. That's Dalet turns into Hay. And as has been mentioned by our Farbrengens over here many a time, I think Rabbi Glukowski said it here once, and it's been repeated, but it's an important story that Rabbi Glukowski was once sitting at a meeting, I think it was in Oletera, and they were talking. I guess there were some negative remarks being said about other Chassidim. And he was sitting next to Reb Mendel Futterfass, and Reb Mendel nudged him and said, "Nope, say what has to be said." And he said he didn't really know what has to be said, so he said, "Okay, soon I'll say it." And again, a little while later, disparaging remarks were being said about other Yidden, about other Chassidim, and he got a nudge from Reb Mendel, "No, say what has to be said already." And he said, "Okay, soon I'll say it." He didn't want to say it. He didn't know what has to be said exactly. And a third time, finally, the meeting was over. And Reb Mendel said to him, "Why didn't you say what has to be said?" So he said, "I'll tell you the truth, I didn't know what has to be said." So Reb Mendel says, "Pashut," what it says in Yeres HaKodesh, that the machshava, a negative machshava about another Yid, has to be chased away and treated as a machshava of Avodah Zarah. The same way if a person has a mishagas that comes into his head about Avodah Zarah, of course he sees it as a terrible, negative thing he's not interested in, he chases it away. So the same is true, the Alter Rebbe says, is a negative thought about your friend. To think negatively about your friend is as bad as Avodah Zarah, it has to be chased away. That's what should be said. So here we see the Indian that Avos Yisrael starts in Machshava, not just Maisa. Machshava and Dibur, of course, but even in Machshava starts Avos Yisrael to make sure that you don't see them in a negative light. It says, Ma'amorim, that every Yid, the Eibusher loves more than elderly parents love their only child that was born to them in Leis, in their old age. You can imagine what kind of love. They have an only child that was born in their old age, in a tremendous love, but the Eibusher loves every Yid much more than that. And we know that in Tanya it says that the Eibusher leaves the Elyenim, all the Malachim, and he's Miyachet Malchusa. He makes his kingdom on every single Yid Befrat. So when you look at another Yid, it doesn't make a difference who the Yid is. It makes no difference. But the fact that he's a Yid means that the Eibusher loves him pligvul. And the Eibusher is Miyachet Malchusa in him. This guy is super important. If the Eibusher can put away all the Malachim, he's not interested. He wants to be Miyachet Malchusa, all of Befrat. On this Yid, you can have a derech eretz for that Yid. And you can have an Abbas Yisrael for that Yid. And that starts in Machshava, that a person should start to see every Yid in a positive light. There's a group of Chassidim that wrote a letter to the Rebbe that they are learning the memoirs, Sefer HaZichronis of the Frierdiker Rebbe, and they're very touched and inspired by the many hidden tzaddikim that the Frierdiker Rebbe speaks about. All kinds of hidden tzaddikim. And they're very inspired by it. And the Rebbe writes back, it's a letter in the Chelik Beis of Igris, the Rebbe writes back that there's a few Hirais that the Rebbe takes from this. But one of the Hirais the Rebbe says is that you never know which Yid could be a hidden tzaddik. And nowadays there's Asach, Mer. That's the Lashon. A lot more than 36 hidden tzaddikim. You never know which is a tzaddik. So you have to have a derech eretz and a respect for every single Yid you come across. It makes no difference what you think of him.
Time passed. Whole world Yes, sir.
Just on the note, and we were talking about those tzaddikim, they started. There's a story about a Rosh Yeshiva of Rosh Yeshiva in Eretz Yisrael, Chai Yoela. His name was Chaim Chaikel Miletsky. And this Rosh Yeshiva was marrying off his child. And unfortunately, he wasn't able to walk. He had terrible problems with his legs. I don't know if he had one amputated or not, but he had terrible problems with his legs. And he was brought into the chasna on a bed. And he motioned to everyone that he wants to say something. And this is what he said. He said that when he was a bacher, there was a drunkard that used to hang around the yeshiva, Itcha the drunk. No one took him seriously. He's a person who used to drink and fall asleep and wake up and drink again and fall asleep. He's not a drunkard. He didn't bother them. They didn't bother him. Then one day, while they were sitting, it was a group of 30 Bachrim that sat in the yeshiva. They had a shul that they used to learn in. This was back in Europe. And they were sitting and learning, and some guy, a yid, comes in, and he's frantic. And he says that his wagon tipped over, and somehow it's sitting on the neck of his horse, and his horse is about to die, and he needs someone, please, to help. Otherwise, his horse will die, and he can't afford another horse, and they have no way of having parnasa. Please help me. So the Bachrim said, Reb Chaim Chaikel, he said, we had a whole diyun. Is it right for us to disturb our limud Torah at this time of night? No one else is learning Torah, so maybe it's wrong for us. They had a whole shaklam Torah, and they decided, I'm sorry, we can't help you. Go find someone else. Someone else can do the same job. Go find someone else. And all of a sudden, Itcha the drunk spoke up, and he says, go help him. And they laughed at him, Itcha the drunk. And Itcha the drunk said, if you don't go help him, a time will come where you can't help him. So said Chaim Chaikel, the Rosh Yeshiva, said, I, amongst my friends, said to Itcha the drunk, since when did you become a paisik? That you should tell us what we should do? And they laughed him off. So this guy ran to try to find other help. He couldn't find other help. He comes back double frantic. He says, Cherah, please, I can't find anyone. Please help me get this wagon off the horse. So then they had another diyun and whole discussion, and they said, there's no one else. So we're allowed to be Vatal Torah. So they went to help him, but by that time the horse was dead. So he came back to the yeshiva. The next day he came a little bit late to yeshiva, in the late night, and they told him, Itcha the drunk is looking for you. So Itcha the drunk, he comes to Itcha the drunk, he says, I heard you're looking for me. He says, yeah, I want you to come to my house because tomorrow he says he's going to die. He says, what? You're going to die? No one knows. What are you saying? Look how the other one. It's on us over here. He says, I want you to come to my house. Tomorrow he's going to die. And he wants him to be there. And he figured, listen, it makes a difference to him. He's learning Torah anyways. He'll learn Torah here, he'll learn Torah there. So he decided to go to Itcha the drunk's, wherever his little dilapidated hut, what you call his house. He went to there and sat there and started to learn. And he sits and learns. And Itcha is drunk over there, sleeping on his bed, and he's learning Torah that night. And after a few hours, he thinks about, what am I making myself a shugga sitting over here? Let me go back to the base medrash. He gets up to leave, and Itcha the drunk wakes up right away, and he says, don't leave. At 2 a.m. is going to be Yitzias HaNeshama. Don't leave. Please be here. So at 2 a.m. He says, furthermore, he says, I want you to tell the Chevra Kaddish that I want to be buried next to so-and-so, which was a big Talmud Chacham, a big tzaddik. I want to be buried right next to him. He said, what are you talking about? No one's going to listen. But you think, you're not even meniach tefillin. What, you think you're going to be buried next to this Talmud Chacham? He said, what, I'm not meniach tefillin? He says, look at that box over there. So he followed and he looked at the box, and there he sees the most mahudidik, beautiful tefillin. And he says, okay, so you're meniach tefillin. He was taken aback. He never thought he should have drunk put on tefillin. They're meniach tefillin. But still, no one respects you. You think they're going to let you be buried next to this person? He says, you know what? Look in another box. He showed him another box, and when you open there, you'll show that to the Chevra Kadisha, and they'll let me be buried next to this person. And he opened up another box, and he sees these kisvei ksav yad, which was from Itcha the drunk, about all kinds of inyanei Torah, deep ge'onis in many different areas of Torah. And he realizes that this Itcha the drunk was no part of the yid at all. It was just a cover. And he started to understand who he was dealing with. At 2 a.m., each of the drunk Yitzias and Neshama passed away. And he ran to this Chaim Chaikel. He's saying the story of the chasna of his child. He says he ran to the Chevra Kadisha and he told them the whole story. And they started to believe it. He's saying, I'm a witness, I saw the tefillin come and you'll see. And they said, but the head of the Chevra Kadisha said, we're sorry, we can't bury him in this Beis HaChaim, because this Beis HaChaim has been out of business already for a long time. It's full to capacity. I know this Beis HaChaim. For already years, people are going to love the Beis HaChaim. Anyway, they decided to do a double check. And Hafli Vafeli, they found that there was one place right next to this Tzaddik Talmud Chacham that each of the drunk wanted to be buried next to one place, which no one realized, waiting for him. So Reb Chaim Chaikel said, it's his curse. It's what he said. At that time, when I said, you be on Paisik, he said, the time will come that you won't be able to help him. That's why I'm here like this today. Everyone at the Chassan felt very bad for him. Sad story, it's supposed to be a simcha. But he wanted to share it at that time. And there was one Chabad Chassid. I don't remember his name, maybe someone here knows his name. There was one Chabad Chassid who was also... Was it Fully-Khan?
He writes the story, I don't know, it's a No.
There was one Chabad Chassid who was there. Come. And he wrote to the Rabbi. This Rosh Hashiva was not a Chassid, but he wrote to the Rabbi. He used to write to the Rabbi, wrote to the Rabbi about this. And the Rabbi answered, everything's Vashkach, this is what he went through. And if I remember, the gist of the answer was that if he starts to learn Chitas and make sure, make sure that other Yidden also learn Chitas, then he'll be fine. And so the Chassid came back to him and said, I wrote to the Rebbe, I know maybe you don't agree with it, but this is the answer. He was extremely excited to see such an answer. He kissed the answer of the Rebbe, and he started to learn Chitas. And they say that he had a Chitas on his desk, and anyone who came to him, he would say, please, do me a favor, learn Chitas, you're helping my health. And within a short amount of time, he was able to walk again, or he had it, unfortunately, I don't know the exact details, but he was better. So you see, it's not such a far-flung Indian, it's not just from the times of the Rebbe. There is such an Indian as Yidden, who you don't know about. Take, we just started such a mitzvah.
Yes.
Well, you're just saying that to you. Another one. What? Public holiday tomorrow.
There was once a judge who was well known to take bribery. And one day, on a particular day where he was sitting in court, one of the litigants handed him a fat check, and obviously he was happy to see the check, and he ruled in favor of this litigant who bribed him. A little while later, he tried to bank the check, and it bounced. He says, he lifted his eyes up to the Eibush, says, Eibush, where's the Yosher in this world? Where's the Yosher? In a couple of weeks, we're going to learn about the meaning of Sheikhad. How Sheikhad is Ma'aver Eini Chachamim. That even people are truly wise, what the Torah calls wise, but Sheikhad can blind their eyes. And therefore, the Gdolei HaChachamim, we find in Gemara that even the greatest, if someone gave them Sheikhad, and not intentional Sheikhad, but they gave them a gift, which was a gift that you give to a Kohen. They happened to be a Kohen. They gave him the gift. They right away said, I can't be a Dayan in your case because that's in Sheikhad and I can't think straight anymore. It's Ya'aver Eini Chachamim. There's even a Kohen Gadol that says that when they're looking into Iber Shana, whether they should make a leap year or not, it says a Kohen Gadol is not allowed to be part of the decision making. Why? Even if he's a qualified Chacham, and he could, in theory, be part of the decision making, he's not allowed to, because he might have in mind that if they make a leap year, then the water that he has to go into the mikveh on Yom Kippur is going to be a little bit colder. And even such a small svara that the water might be a bit cold, if they make a leap year, he's shaychad, he has a self-interest, and he can't see it straight, and he might make a mistake, and therefore he's not allowed to be part of this ruling. Now, one may say this is shaykh to Dayanim. We're not all Dayanim, but the truth is we are all Dayanim. Everyone is every day making dinim, they're making judgments on their life, how to lead their life, in which direction to take it, what the right thing for them to do is. And we have the biggest shaykhad. The biggest shaykhad is your self-love. And in shaykhad, your self-love it's connected to your ratzin, and ratzin is higher than chachma, and it can affect you that you should start to understand why it's right to do what exactly is not right. And you can explain it logically, and it makes perfect sense, because ratzin can have that effect on chachma. It's called sheikhad. Your self-love is sheikhad, and therefore it can strongly influence even a person who's a very logical and reasonable, rational human being, can be affected by this avas atzvai to do things that are completely not in line with what he should be doing. There's a teaching of the Baal Shem Tov. Baal Shem Tov says in the name of the Ramban, V'adavar asher yikshe mikem taviyun elai bushmativ takrivun elai ushmativ. Whatever you find difficult, Moshe Rabbeinu says, bring it close to me, and I'll hear the case. And the Baal Shem Tov says in the name of the Ramban that when you have a difficulty and you don't know which way to go, mikem, the problem is from you, because you put yourself into the equation, your self-interest. But if you remove it, if takrivun elai, if you bring the case to what the Eibishter wants, then Ushmaiti, the Eibishter will give you guidance, and you'll get the the clarity as to what you should do. There's a story that's brought in about Rabbi Yisrael Noach of Nezhet, who was the son of the Tzemach Tzedek. And Rabbi Yisrael Noach was a big Talmud Chacham and a big Paisik, but he was also a businessman. And one time he got into an argument with his partner. And his partner, each one felt like the other one owes him money. So Rabbi Yisrael Noach said to his partner, let's go to Beis Din and we'll ask them what the right thing is. His partner said, there's no way in the world that I'm going to take the son of the Rebbe to Beis Din. I'd rather pay the money, and I'll give you the money. I don't care. I'm not taking the son of the Rebbe to Beis Din. Rabbi Yisrael Noach on his side said, I'm not taking money that doesn't belong to me. They didn't know what to do. They thought, and finally the partner came up with an idea. He said, we'll go to Beis Din, but you'll be the Dayan. You're Dayan. You will be the guy for our case. And Rabbi Yisrael Noach agreed. He locked himself up in a room for 7 hours. After 7 hours, he came out and he said, you are right, you came out right in the din, and I came out not right. And therefore, I owe you the money. And then he said that you should know that it didn't take me a long time to work out what the din is. That took me a quick time. For 5 hours, I was sitting and working to get myself out of the picture. For 5 hours, I was working to get myself out of the picture. I shouldn't be any self-interest. And then, once I got myself out of the picture, then I was able to see the din karoi, and I was able to pass him that you're right. Now, not everyone is a Rabbi Yisrael Noach who can take himself out of the picture. Adam Karabes Alatzmai, there's Avas Atzmai. It's a sheikhad. And even if you're the most rational, intelligent, decent human being, but Avas Atzmai is a sheikhad that's constantly working on you, and it's lav daka so easy to get out of it. And for Rabbi Yisrael Noach, it took 5 hours. And so therefore, we have a clear hero from the Rebbe, which was said in early years. I think Mem Vav, the Rebbe spoke a lot about it, but Mem Ches, also the idea of that every single person has to have Aseh L'charav. There's no way that a person can truly grow in his Avedas Hashem in an honest way. There's no way that a person can make true decisions according to what the Eibusher wants without having Aseh L'charav. Because your Rav, first of all, he's objective. So he doesn't have that Avas Atzma problem. In addition to that, you be Mekayim a Mishnah that says Aseh L'charav. And by Mekayim Mishnah, not only are you dealing with someone who's objective, but since you did what the Eibusher told you to do, the answer that's right for you will come through the Eibusher, even if the Rav is not a Tzaddik Gomer. Someone who you respect, he doesn't have to be a Tzaddik Gomer, he doesn't have the answers to everything. But you're doing the right thing by having Aseh L'charav, and the Eibusher's answer, the Rebbe's answer to you will come through that Rav. And there's no way for a person to move forward in the Avedas Hashem without an Aseh L'charav, without a Mashpia. So L'chaim, we should all take upon ourselves to have Mashpia. If we have Mashpia, to use our Mashpia properly, to ask them the questions that we need to ask, the ones that we don't want to ask. L'chaim.
Jumped in the middle of it.
He just came out.
That's it?
Ay, 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 ay. Oh. There we go.
guest appearance on Farbrengen. Is that recording?
Chaim. Those who saw the video on Mitzvah Shabbos, the Living Torah, so there was a personal encounter from a Yid, the name of Michael Alush. So I want to, Hashgacha Pratis, I had read another detail of that story, which he told last Motzei Shabbos. I read it in this sefer I have here, Parshiyotim Rabbi. Those who don't know about the sefer, it's a beautiful sefer. It's a set of svarim written by Aaron Dov Halperin, the editor of the Kfar Chabad magazine. So he made like Sipurei Chassidim from Rav Zeben, stories of tzaddikim on the parsha. So he took stories of the Rebbe and he connected them to the parsha. Stories that he heard from Chassidim and stories that he heard that was also are found in the Rebbe's Sichos, etc., etc. I read this story 2 years ago. I'll say later the circumstances, which was also about Hashgacha Pratis. So as he told us that he is a aeronautical engineer, and he also spoke about the time that he spent, a few years he spent in Johannesburg, South Africa. So he didn't tell this on the video, but here it tells the following story. That, and actually, it says here that he told this story to Aaron Dov Halperin after he heard about the passing of Rabbi Yosef Weinberg, Olav Sholem, who was a shadar, and he used to go to certain places in the world to raise funds. Shadar stands for Shluchah Rachmon, it means like a messenger of the Rebbe. And he would, or the Rabbonon, Shluchah the Rabbonon, and he would go, and he'd go very often. He went for many, many years to South Africa, to go South Africa and Brazil. And he told over many stories. So after he heard about the passing of Rabbi Weinberg, he told the following story. He says, after he became close to Yiddishkeit and to the Rebbe, he came to Johannesburg. Again, he mentioned it in that interview, but very, very briefly, and it was the winter of Tafshin Mem Ches. He came from France with his mishpacha, and he had received the Rebbe's advice and the Rebbe's bracha that he should go. He got there a very, very good job offer, and the Rebbe gave his bracha v'askama that he should go there. On Yud Gimel Teves, the the 13th of Tevis. They moved to a house, a rented home, in the neighborhood where most of the Anash live. And the owner of the house gave them a tour of the house and also pointed out various aspects of the house. Explained also how careful they have to be in regards to the security measures which were built into the house. First of all, they have to make sure to lock all the doors every night. And not only are there gates at the front of the houses, but many houses have inside of the house, they have another gate which separates the bedrooms from the kitchen and the dining room and the living area, which they close at night and they padlock in case somebody breaks in to that part of the area, to that part of the house. They can't go further into the sleeping quarters. And the owner is telling them, if you hear that somebody is breaking into the house at night, don't go close, remain behind the bars, etc. Pretend that you're sleeping. He says, because they're not just thieves and robbers, but Rahman al-Islam, they could murder also, Hashem Yishmor. So when he heard that on that day, even though that they had come with the Rebbe's bracha, that this was a terrible letdown. Extremely disheartening, and it made he and his wife feel extremely unsafe and unsecure there. So immediately he sat down and wrote a letter to the Rebbe, and he writes to the Rebbe about this feeling that they have, this very let down feeling, and he was asking a bracha from the Rebbe that he should be able to overcome this feeling of insecurity, etc., which had come over them. A short while after that, one of the Chassidic Chabad in the city heard about this new, strange, or this new family that had come and moved into town, and they'd come from France. He calls them up and he says, I'm having a small Farbrengen in my home tonight with Rabbi Yosef Weinberg, just a few, 4 or 5 people, and I'd be very happy if you would join us with the Farbrengen. So this was a bit of an uplift, and he was very happy to join the Farbrengen. He sat around the table, and Rabbi Weinberg explained why he wanted a Farbrengen. Yud Gimel Tevis, he said, was the last Yechidus that he had with the Frierdiker Rebbe, which was approximately 4 weeks before the Stalkus, right? Yud Shvat, 4 weeks later. And so therefore, apparently, every year he would Farbrengen on Yud Gimel Tevis, and he shared with them things that the Frierdiker Rebbe told him, which was Ruach HaKodesh, and things that he didn't understand at the time. Only many years later he did understand. He shared many things that happened with him and the Rebbe, the Siderenu, and the point that he brought out was, again and again, how important it is. So actually this is printed in the parasha of this week, B'Shalach, under the heading Vayaminu B'Hashem V'Moshe Avdei, that the theme of Rabbi Weinberg's message was Vayaminu B'Hashem V'Moshe Avdei, believing in Hashem and Moshe Avdei. And he sang Nigunim in the course of the evening, and again gave over this message of Emunah and Bitochen, which really took hold, and it penetrated to the depths of his soul. Oymek Nafshay. At the end of the evening, Rabbi Weinberg turned to him because he heard that he had just arrived in South Africa from France, and he was concerned perhaps he didn't understand English yet. And he said, "Did you understand what I said?" And he bashfully answered, "I think I did." But he says the truth is that not only did he understand, but he was so inspired from this Farbrengen, he says that Mamish penetrated all of his Reimachi Vorim, this Nekuda, this theme that he's bringing out about Amunah B'tochen, V'Yaminu B'Hashem B'Moshe Avda. He says, when he came back home, he felt embarrassed. How can I go now and send this letter to the Rebbe and ask for the Rebbe, ask the Rebbe for a bracha for B'tochen? He was embarrassed to do it after such an inspiring Farbrengen about Amunah B'tochen. He says, I can't send this letter to the Rebbe anymore. And so he decided he's not sending this letter to the Rebbe because he received already the Rebbe's answer from a shliach of the Rebbe at the Farbrengen. And so this, the Michael says that he keeps this letter with him all the time. The letter that he did not send to the Rebbe. He says, but he didn't tell anyone until after Rabbi Weinberg passed away. He didn't tell anybody what had really happened on that day. A number of years later, after they were living in South Africa, it says their oldest daughter came to learn in the Oil Chana Seminary in Melbourne. This is, I remember, 20 years ago approximately. Well, actually, one time she calls her father in Eretz Yisrael and he says that Rabbi Yosef Weinberg has come to Australia, so we brought Rabbi Weinberg here for Gimel Tammuz Tovshin Nun Vov. So that's already over 20 years ago. And he was coming to Farbrengen with the girls in El Chanan. So she's telling her father that Rabbi Weinberg is coming. So the father, this Rabbi Chol, says, I want you to tell Rabbi Weinberg the story of that Farbrengen of Yud Gimel Tevis in Johannesburg. So this girl tells the story to Rabbi Weinberg, and when he hears the story, he cries out with great hisrachus, with great emotion, with great excitement. Oh, he says, so now I finally understand the strange Hayirah that I got from the Rebbe. What was the story? He said he had planned that year his trip to South Africa should be in Elul. A few months before. The last moment, the Rebbe instructed him not to travel. Don't travel now, the Rebbe said. Push off your trip to Johannesburg after the Yom Tov. And a few times, already after Yom Tov, the Rebbe also had pushed it off. And it was very strange. He says it was very unusual, it was very, very strange. He says, now when you tell me the story, I understand. Finally, the Rebbe wanted me to wait until after Yom Tovim to come, Dafke, when you had arrived, etc., and to deliver this message to you. So this is another part of the story that he was telling us. I just want to say, 2 years ago, it was Shabbos Pashas, it was Erev Shabbos Pashas Yisroi, and Oil Chana was having a Shabbaton that weekend, and I went along with my wife who works in Oil Chana to spend Shabbos with them. And right before I left the house, I said, no, what sefer am I going to take with me? He says, this is a good sefer to take. Pull this out. That Shabbos is Pashas Yisroi. Shabbos afternoon, I open up the sefer. No, let's see what stories there are on Pashas Yisroi. And I open up to this page. And I see it says here, Vayaminu B'Shem Moshe Avdei, from Shabbos Pashas Shvat. So it's Vayaminu B'Shem Moshe Avdei. Let's see what story they have over here. It tells a story about Oil Chana Girls Seminary in Melbourne. And I felt that this is also a very big Hashgacha practice, which is connected to, I mean, we all know these stories, and this, one of the things, you know, there is a weekly email which is sent out called Living with the Rebbe. If you don't get it, I know there are lots of things that come out, but this is a very, very beautiful collection of various siches from all over, from Likuti siches and from siches Kodesh and from Igris, connected to the Parsha. And so one of the things that they gave out for last week is a letter which is very, very powerful. in it, the Rebbe talks about, he's talking to somebody, and he says, that which you write that you feel lonely and secluded, bodot v'galmud. That's what it means, right? Lonely and secluded. And therefore this causes you to feel a great weakness in all your avodah. So the Rebbe says, so that the end proves on the beginning. If you say that this causes that there should be a weakness in your avodah, so that's proving that from the outset this is atzas ha'yetzer, it's the counsel of the Yetzer Hara, who's trying to weaken everybody in fulfilling their shlichus. And it's known that the saying of my father-in-law, this was written in the year of the Istalkus, because the Rebbe says, Hareini Kaporas Mishkove over here. And so it's known, and it's in Hayom Yom, that Chassidus achieved that one is not alone. Wherever one is, the Rabbeim are there also. That's what the previous Friedrich Rebbe said, that Chassid is not alone. That's what Chassidus achieved. Wherever one is, the Rabbeim are there. The Rebbe adds, especially in regards to my father-in-law, that he himself wrote about the Istalkus of his father, the Rebbe in Shmos Eden, that the Roye Yisrael lo yazvu tzoi marisom, that the shepherds of Israel don't leave their flock, as is explained in the Geras HaKodesh. And now that all of the physical limitations have been removed, so they are with each and every single individual, those who are shaykh to them and those who are mekusha to them, b'chol mokem shehem, wherever they may be, in any place, and especially those places that they were sent by them to fulfill a shlichus, or bipratim, but more specifically, when the shlichus is to disseminate the ma'ayonis of the Baal Shem Tov Chutzah, which is the preparation and the hakdama to Bias HaMashiach and to Tchias HaMeitzim, v'akitzu v'ranan v'shoish v'neyovar v'hu b'soicham. Just to mention, and it continues that you should learn the Sikha of Yud Beis Tammuz Tov Shin Tes. From there you will be able to draw chayas, energy, and his oiredus and awakening and his chaskus and strengthening in your avodah where you are now. And that from there you will see clearly that even in Seichel Anushi, in human intellect, it's understood that there's no place for such a thought that you are lonely and secluded, chas v'sholem, and obviously there's no foundation for weakness in avodah. And the Rebbe says over here, which has been mentioned at Farbrengen edition from time to time, that halavai, anash would be medaktik, that there would be particular, and especially the tmimim in the words of the Rebbe, the Shvat, even in his siches, and specifically those from Tov Shin Yud and the year before that, meaning in the last 2 years of the siches of the Friedrich Rebbe. So if we apply that to the Rebbe, that we should be medayik in the words of the Rebbe, especially in the words of the siches of the last 2 years, so there it's spelled out clearly, unequivocally, and they're words of tremendous inspiration about that that Mashiach is here, and we're sitting already at the table with Mashiach, with the Shoy Rabor, the Yosn, the Yaina Meshumar, etc., all of the great things that the Rebbe talks about where we are holding now. Now, I just want to add, talking about, we told here a story about Johannesburg. So also there was an answer written to someone in Johannesburg. It was a woman. You can see from the wording of the answer. Apparently that this woman wrote to the Rebbe that from time to time also she has this weakness in I don't know if it's in avodah or if it's in emunah, etc. And the Rebbe said that she should take a picture of my father-in-law, the Rebbe, and she should look at the picture. That when she feels like that, she has this down feeling, take a picture of the Rebbe and the Sidei Reino, as the Rebbe would refer to the Friedrich Rebbe. Look at the picture. And while looking at the picture, bear in mind that he, being a Roya Yisrael Amiti, being a true shepherd of Israel, is looking at her at that very moment as well. That when she is looking at the Rebbe's picture, the Rebbe is looking back at her. And this will help that feeling that she has at the time, which is an amazing expression. And this is words that the Rebbe himself said. And also another word from the Friedrich Rebbe, which is extremely empowering and inspiring and tremendously being mechazik. It's in Sefer Sichos Tafshin, page 36, because I've looked it up many times, but it's something that one should really look at least once a week, maybe even more often. And there the Rebbe says that the words of a tzaddik and of a Rebbe is everlasting. It's everlasting. When the Rebbe gave a bracha to a chassid, so it says, not only are the words that the Rebbe said and the brachas that he gave eternal, but when a chassid contemplates deeply and arouses in his mind the memories that he had when he was by the Rebbe in Yechidus, getting those brachas, so that concentration of bringing up those memories causes the Rebbe, the holy neshama of the Rebbe, no matter where the Rebbe's neshama may be, that the Rebbe should come to that chassid at that very moment and give him the brachas again at that time. The Rebbe is saying that by, again, thinking and remembering and focusing and concentrating on those memories when a chassid was by the Rebbe and getting the brachas, and the Rebbe was giving his attention to that particular chassid. You know, when the Rebbe gave Yechidus, so the Rebbe was fully attuned to the person who was in Yechidus. Complete, full attention. So the Rebbe says that remembering it deeply, you have to look up the expression of exactly how it's worded over there. That causes that the Rebbe should come, the Rebbe's holy neshama should come to the chassid and once again attend to the chassid's needs and gives him the brachas. It's like giving the brachas again. These two things, by the way, are connected because people ask, well, what happens if you didn't have the schus to go to the Rebbe and to be by the Rebbe as a Farbrengen, or to be in Yechidus, or to be by dollars, or lekach, bracha, all of those things. So the Rebbe is saying that what the power of a picture is also. But all of these things are not enough. Of course, we have to make a strong proclamation that this is not enough, and that we will not settle for it. And of course, we can't settle for it, and the Rebbe doesn't want us to settle for it. So therefore, now it's Yud Shvat, and then of Shabbos, Yud Aleph Shvat, the Kabbalah Samalchus of the Rebbe, and the Rebbe promised us, and as we just said in the Sichos of Tafshin Nun Aleph and Nun Beis, particularly spelling it out clearly, unequivocally, without any doubt, that, again, the Rebbe says Mashiach is here. A number of times the Rebbe said we have to open up our eyes, and sometimes the Rebbe said Hashem has to open up our eyes. So that's where it's at, and we have to express our full emunah in it. That's what it is, and that's where it's at. And therefore we stand and we proclaim to the Rebbe that we want to see our Rebbe, our King, Balach HaMashiach, immediately now. Amen. No Feldman, you're back.